I wanted to show you how to create a composite in Blender, but I was using this pack from Jama. Obviously, it's just a bonus section, so you would need to purchase all these figures and the landscapes. But it's just so taxing on the system that even with my 4090, I had to actually go to simplify here and start reducing the size of textures for rendering because it just simply couldn't handle it. And mainly because of these figures, each of them is like 8 or 9 gigabytes of VRAM. So if you put one of these figures in Blender on its own, it's about like 8 gigabytes of VRAM. It's crazy. It's like I think 18 textures on each of them. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not joking. That's a helmet. That's a jacket. That's the backpack, and there are other elements in here. So there's a lot of stuff going on. In any case, what I wanted to show you just briefly and explain how would I optimize this mesh. I'll not show you, the full optimization process because it's probably gonna take like, I don't know, an hour or something. But I just wanted to show you what I would do, right? So let me just hide these for a second and, hide this one and this one. So if I was to optimize this mesh, the most important part would be to optimize the wheels and, fix them. Because at the moment, if you turn one wheel, right, the other one's going to turn the wrong way, and also all of them turn at the same time. You don't want that. So the way I would solve this would be to, apply this array here and then simply mirror this to the other side and then separate this wheel from the mirror. So once you mirror the mesh, right? So let's say you got a mirror here, cube here, and you're gonna mirror it across, let's say the cursor, right? Not flip, mirror. Let me just reset this. And cursor, there we go. And you're gonna apply the mirror, so go here and apply it, right? What you wanna do is you wanna go here and you wanna separate this mesh, press LP and, selection. So you got now these two separately. So when you rotate them, Shift S and move the origin to geometry, so they have their own origin points. When you rotate them, they're going to rotate the same way. Do you see what I mean? So mirrored objects will not work. And obviously you can't, instance all of them, because if you do that, they're all going to turn. So what I would do is I would, fix the first wheel and then create instance of it in here, then copy this to this position and create another instance. So you would have two sort of different folders for wheels. This and this, and the back wheels don't move and these two front wheels gonna turn, okay? Then when you're gonna be applying the mesh, obviously you're gonna be careful with Smart Apply because Smart Apply is bugged, which means if you're going to grab a mesh and try to run a Smart Apply, it's possible that the bevel gonna get applied. In this case it didn't, but you gotta pay attention. For example, it happened to me in here, and this is the only mesh that has a bevel applied, and this could be very easily fixed with, by the way, with Mesh Machine. So if you had Mesh Machine, this would be a joke to fix, right? Or I could just simply recreate this mesh, which probably what I'm going to do when I'm going to be giving you this file. Or I could just simply grab this mesh from the previous, save file. And that's also one of the advantages of saving, like crazy. They're really not large files unless you're going to start packing textures into them, right? Then what you need to also pay attention to when you're going to be applying modifiers and moving things, remember that some stuff is mirrored across other elements. So for example, if I grab this one, right, other things mirror across it. So, if you, for example, notice there is a duplicate chassis in here. So this one is duplicated, right? If I hide it, there's another one in here, you see that? And this one has different stuff mirror across it. So you would need to be careful. You would need to apply these mirrors first and then remove the one that's doubled and then simply apply the rest, okay? So that's how I would approach this. Another thing is that if you're going to have arrays, so like, for example, like here, that's an array, right? So if you're going to texture one of these, you're going to texture all of them, right? So this is a bit easier. So let's say we're going to be using trim sheets and I'm going to texture the first one. Is going to get reflected on the instances of the array, because obviously it's arrayed, right? So if you're going to apply the array, you're going to have to texture each of these separately, so I wouldn't do that. Now here also want to clean all these sharps, these lines, they're kind of nasty, so shift control click on sharpen, right? Just make sure it's not going to shift the array. Then also make sure that you're going to remove all the duplicate stuff, right? Like these, these are all duplicates, screws and bolts. In fact, they're not duplicate, the mirror to the other side, you see, and this mirror shouldn't be taking place. So let me just see this. Yeah, this is a mirror, right? So what we will need to do here is bring it to local, then apply this mirror because it's mirroring from here to the other side. So apply the mirror, right? Then apply, let me see this, apply this mirror, that two separate objects. Then select them, right, in object view, go to edit, select everything, Alt H, and then press Alt Z, B, and select these and nuke them, right? And then move the origin points back to geometry. And then you're gonna have bolts only on the other side, they're gonna be separate. In addition, what I would do, I would actually connect all these together. So, you know, select all these and simply Control J them. So it's gonna become one object. It's gonna be much easier to texture them. Just make sure they're gonna be aligned properly, right? And go around your model and see if there are no issues. Like for example, somewhere here in the back, let me see this. Where is this mesh? For instance, here, if I'm gonna apply the mirror, you see you're gonna have a problem. You see this, right? And this is actually quite interesting, but you might need to fix all these issues here with a mesh like this, you know. So when you're gonna be applying modifiers, just pay attention to stuff that's actually, you know, messed up, right? In fact, what you could do here is switch this to weight. For some weird reason, this bevel on the other side doesn't catch this edge. I don't know why it's the same angle, it's just weird. But changing this to weight from angle seems to work, so that's fine. You could also change the auto smooth but or bevel angle, right? So you could go here to Q, bevel, and hold Alt and scroll down. It's gonna fix it as well. So there you go. So, you know, just make sure everything is peachy. And then I also noticed that here, let me just nuke these. We got a double mesh here. So this is gonna cause, you know, in this case you will not see this, but it will cause Z fighting in cycles. So you may want to remove stuff like this. So if you see double mesh, just simply nuke it and fix it, right? And any other issues, you know, just make sure you're going to address, right? And let's recover the wheels. Let's recover the wheels. I'll show you something. So wheel instances and then wheels, right? See, this one is in wheels. If you're going to move it to instance like we did, you see that? Now the wheels collection has been instanced and anything in that collection is going to get instant, you know, across this vehicle. This one shouldn't be instant because it's going to be sticking out in there, right? So what you want to do is you want to select all these and you move them to truck main and, you know, the instance is going to disappear, right? And then make sure that, you know, this is all aligned here correctly, right? It's really important. There you go. It's a small detail, but, you know, the devil is in details, okay? And then just go around the mesh and see if everything is peachy. You know, if stuff, for example, isn't connected like this one, you're not going to be able to join these because this is not a mesh. You will need to go Control A and Visual to Mesh, right? I mean, here, Visual Geometry Mesh. And then you could Control J them together as a one mesh. You could even boolean them if you wanted to, but, you know, I wouldn't do that. Another thing you could try doing, it might crush your system, but you could do it by, you know, by collections. You know, I actually was thinking about splitting the bottom of the vehicle and the top and the wheels into separate collections. So once you do that, what you could do is select one collection. Let's say we're gonna select just a, you know, just a truck, right? So let's go here and hide this and this guy and these guys, right? And this planet. You could select everything, then shift select one of the meshes, otherwise it will not work. Because if you select everything, you're selecting also empties and you're selecting you know, curves, which cannot be, whether this multiply will not work though, right? So what you want to do is you want to select everything and then shift select twice a mesh, right? So it's going to be the active mesh or active selection. Then go to Q operations, right? And you want to multiply. It is going to apply all the modifiers like mirrors, arrays, solidifications, booleans, everything on the entire truck, right? Now this could crash your system, that's one. I mean, I don't know how much RAM do you have, etc. But, you know, could work. But the problem with this one is that he's going to apply all the arrays. And like I said, you don't really want to do that, okay? Because, you know, this is better to keep as an array. It's going to be easier to texture. So, you know, it's up to you how you want to approach this. But these are just my tips on, you know, mesh cleanup and how I would go about doing that. Now, lastly, if you want to run any decals on your mesh, you need to make sure that your mesh is dead center, which means all the elements and all the origin points of any mesh you're gonna be mirroring decals across gonna be perfectly in the center. Otherwise, the decal is gonna be sinking into the mesh on the other side. You see what I mean? So if the origin point is moved a bit here, right? If it wasn't in the middle, if I put a decal here and mirror to the other side, the mirror is gonna end up somewhere here. So your decal gonna be sinking, and if that happens, you could adjust the height of the decal manually, but a better way of doing it is to have a perfectly symmetrical mesh. So when you finish working on your mesh, make sure that, especially the large pieces you're gonna be mirroring across, right? Let's say you wanna put like a sticker here and you wanna mirror to the other side. If the mesh isn't perfectly, mirrored, you're gonna have a problem, right? I mean, perfectly centered. So again, this is something to pay attention to. Once you finish cleaning your mesh and you're gonna apply all the booleans, because you can apply all the live booleans, you don't need to keep them. It's gonna actually make things easier in terms of texturing. You can just nuke the entire cutter folder, and that goes also to the empties. But remember that some of the meshes, right, are parented to specific empties. Like for instance, let's grab this one and let's see what's this for. This one doesn't really do anything, so this is a dead empty. But some of these empties guarantee you they're gonna be assigned to something, right? So you may want to be very careful what you're deleting, right? So don't touch any empties before you actually apply modifiers like solidification, arrays, and anything that requires an empty. Okay, so just saying, this one for example doesn't have an empty, but there are a lot of empties here in the middle, and some of them for example are from the instances, but some of them are from actually the mesh itself. So again, be careful, right? Going back to the wheels, once you apply the wheels, once you apply the mesh, you're gonna split them into two parts, so left and right wheel, right? What you can do is assign each of them to a separate empty, okay? And then you can just rotate them separately. So let me actually show you what I mean. Now don't worry about these are lights, okay? But what I want to show you is the mesh itself, okay? So you see now, what I have here is I have two empties, and if I'm gonna shift G and immediate children and select this one, go to local view, you'll see that my wheel is parented to this empty, and the empty goes across this suspension. So when I'm gonna rotate it on individual origins, that's what's gonna happen. So if I grab both of these wheels, they separate, right, by the empties, and I'm gonna rotate them like this on their origins, I'm gonna be rotating the wheels, right? See what I mean? So all the mesh is parented to my empty, and I apply the array here, right? But I kept the subdivision live, so the subdivision isn't applied, but the array was applied, because otherwise if you move and the wheel and the array is gonna move with it, so it's not gonna work, okay? So you have to apply the array. But I'm gonna show you in a different video after this one how to apply textures, how to apply decals, and how to create a simple render. But we're simply not gonna be going into any compositing, because like I said, it's a little bit heavy. But there you go, see, that's how it looks with textures. I think it looks pretty cool. Alright, well, that's it for this video, and in next one we're gonna simply texture it using Materialworks. We're gonna have a kind of a short demo of how this add-on works. We're gonna slap some decals here and there, maybe some trim sheets here and there, so you're gonna see how it works with our add-on, and then we're going to just run a simple render, okay? So I'll see you in the next one.